Hello, in this video we're going to talk about Taiwan versus China and how that is a mismatch in many respects, like David versus Goliath. Now, spoiler alert, in this analysis, Taiwan wins. So if you enjoy this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and leave a comment. Love to hear from you. Now, I want to give you an alert or a beware warning. I'm going to present ideas in this video that are not going to be popular with China and the Chinese Communist Party, or with that segment of the population that thinks the United States is a malevolent global presence. I present ideas that propose that Taiwan is very capable of defending itself, and that supporting Taiwan economically and militarily may in fact help to avert a kinetic conflict with China. Now, please do not continue to watch this video if the above ideas may offend you. Conventional wisdom and Chinese propaganda says that in an all-out war to take Taiwan without foreign intervention, China would win. Most pundits think that the war would be short and the outcome inevitable. A closer, more considered analysis reveals that the reverse is actually much more likely. So exactly how can Taiwan win? Well, China has a military force that is roughly 10 times the size of Taiwan's. Now, we could go through the specifics of personnel and equipment, but the fact is that China has a huge advantage when you count the beans. The most important statistic is one that cannot be measured when counting beans: the fact that Taiwan only has to defend itself while China has to attack an island with a water moat that is 120 miles wide. Now, while that may not seem like a long way in today's era of hypersonic missiles, when it comes to being China, you have to consider they're going to have to manage the logistics of sending personnel and equipment over that distance and then safely land them on an island that is mostly cliff faces with only about a dozen beach landing points. It becomes a daunting challenge. As the defender, Taiwan knows exactly where the landings must take place, and they have already fortified those regions as well as the routes from there into the interior. So should China ever get onto and then off the beaches, they're going to have a surprise. If they get a beachhead, then they can count as they move towards the interior on landmines and booby traps and mobile artillery and collapsing tunnels and collapsing bridges, etc. They can see that coming at them all the way into Taipei. Now let's take a closer look at the bean count. China would not take their entire PLA army of 2 million men and remove them from the countryside and send them across the channel. First of all, they don't have the ability to do that. And then second, they're going to need a large army to keep control of the country and its borders. That requirement reduces the available personnel and equipment roughly by half. Next, military planners will tell you that the defender has an advantage of somewhere between a 2 or 3 force multiplier. That means that defenders have shorter supply lines, they have higher motivation levels, and they know their own weak points and can plan around that knowledge. Finally, there is the island effect. Add at least one additional X multiplier factor because Taiwan has a 120-mile wide moat, and mostly their cliffs are facing the seas as natural island barriers to entry. This means that Taiwan will see China coming, and they'll have time to deploy their repelling forces well in advance. The relative force comparison by this point is now more in the realm of 1-to-1. During World War II, the conventional planning wisdom was that you needed a force of at least 5 times the number of attackers as defenders if you're going to try to take an island. Now, while Taiwan has limited equipment, it is mostly U.S. made, high quality, and they've done a good job of protecting it. Even the most devoted pre-attack missile and air-delivered bombardments are unlikely to significantly reduce Taiwan's defensive capabilities. Also, you need to remember and consider that Taiwan has a 3.5 million man reserve force that has been trained, and all they need are guns and positioning. The net result is that Taiwan has an overwhelming personnel advantage. China is actually much more likely to fail than succeed. At worst, Taiwan would hold out long enough to give outside nations time to inflict both economic and, if they wanted, military deterrence actions upon China. Last but not least, consider that Taiwan will have at least 30 days of advance notice and possibly as much as 60 days. Taiwanese commanders will be able to see the buildup on the China coastal provinces and know in advance that an attack is very likely. Then, given the winds, the currents, the tides, and the weather, the ability to predict the most likely actual timing of an attack becomes relatively easy. These factors effectively eliminate the element of surprise. Militarily speaking, it's a good bet that Taiwan can withstand and maybe even defeat China if China attempts to invade. It is by no means a sure thing that China is going to win. It really depends on the planning and the preparation that Taiwan has executed in advance and the Taiwanese willingness to fight. Maybe the biggest advantage that China has is that too many Taiwanese doubt that Taiwan can win. Mark Twain said, "It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog that makes the difference." The Taiwanese people have been constantly bombarded with Chinese Communist Party propaganda telling them that they cannot win the battle. They have listened to this message for so long that they can't help but doubt their ability to withstand. Taiwan's government and military must wage an aggressive marketing campaign to assure the people that Taiwan has the capability to win, even without the intervention of the United States or other outside countries. The problem is further exacerbated by the sense of isolation that the Taiwanese people feel. No significant Western nations have established formal relations, and even the United States basically walks a tightrope and tacitly acknowledges the one China policy. This should change. General Dwight Eisenhower said, "Plans are useless, but planning is indispensable." The Taiwan Ministry of National Defense has been preparing for China for several decades. In recent years, the pace of preparation has accelerated. Taiwan is rapidly building out their own defense industrial base, building state-of-the-art cruise missiles and other weapons and munitions. In addition, Taiwan is purchasing billions of dollars of U.S. weapons, such as those that have been so effective in the Ukraine. Turning Taiwan into a powerful porcupine with long and deadly quills is the best defense. But Taiwan must make sure that both the CCP and the PLA and their own people know the extent to which this is happening and how it changes the calculus of war. Remember, China is not a monolith. The PLA General Staff knows that taking Taiwan is a gargantuan task, and they know that they will likely fail. This assessment may not be the same as the Chinese Communist Party leadership assessment. Communist Chinese Party leadership is so concerned about the political potential turmoil of a failing economy and population collapse that they may very well be willing to risk an invasion as a distraction and try to use it as a nationalistic rallying call. So what can the Western world do? Well, first, sell, lend, or give advanced defensive weapons to Taiwan. Worry about payment terms later. The time to arm Taiwan is now. Second, every time China acts out its military aggression by implementing threatening and intimidating war games near Taiwan, increase the level of sanctions on China and its leadership, ratchet up the economic consequences of aggression, penalize China's economy and make it more costly to compete in Western markets. The costs in terms of supply chain disruption and the higher costs that we will experience as a result are negligible compared to the cost of a kinetic conflict. Remember, China's is actually a fragile economy. China's economy would collapse without both imports and exports of Western goods. China is not the superpower that they would like you to believe that they are. They are mostly bellicose bullies that want everyone to fear them. They have stolen Western technology for decades with impunity. They have polluted the atmosphere. China has killed untold members of their own population. They have seized land in the South China Sea against all international conventions and converted it into military installations. They have made it clear that they will force reunification of Taiwan if Taiwan does not agree through negotiations to be reunited with the mainland. Taiwan is not interested in reunification. This means that China will be forced to resort to coercion. China has developed a powerful military presence, mostly on the backs of Western technology and markets. So we need to tread carefully, thoughtfully, and with determination. China needs to know they are welcome to join the League of Peaceful and Democratic Nations, but only if they play fair and abide by the rules of the game that have established the most prosperous period in human history. China should suffer economically if they do not mend their ways. The only other course of action will eventually be to confront China with military force. Presently, we are in a war with China. We have been at economic war with China for at least the last 30 years. Currently, it's a non-kinetic war, but that could change soon if we're not resolute in our determination. Now is the time to let China's Communist Party know that they are going to have to be nice and play fair if they want to play with us at all. References for this video are The Transformation of Taiwan's Reserve Force by Ian Easton. It's a RAND Corporation report back in 2017. Also a publication, Taiwan Can Win a War with China. This is from foreignpolicy.com, published in 2018. And finally, The Emerging Military Balance in East Asia. This is from thebelfourcenter.org. Please be sure and take a look at these references, as I think you'll find them extremely interesting reading. If you like this video, please again subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.